For privacy reasons, names and places have been changed. This story is inspired by true events.
On the morning of June 12, 2000, 28-year-old Victoria Kelly and her research partner Preston Edwards embarked on what should have been a routine wildlife documentation trek in South Australia's remote Flinders Ranges. They never returned. Despite an extensive search operation across the rugged outback terrain, both researchers seemed to vanish into thin air, leaving behind their valuable equipment and an eerily abandoned research station. For 18 long years, their families lived with devastating uncertainty, while the harsh Australian wilderness kept its dark secret. Then, in 2018, a violent flash flood tore through the landscape, unearthing more than just soil and stone. This is the complete investigation into what happened to Victoria Kelly and Preston Edwards, two passionate conservationists who stumbled upon something far more dangerous than the wildlife they set out to protect. Before we continue, let us know where you're watching from, and if you enjoy this content, consider liking and subscribing to our channel. Now let's continue. In the vast expanse of South Australia's Flinders Ranges, where ancient rock formations meet endless sky, the disappearance of Victoria Kelly and Preston Edwards marked the beginning of a mystery that would haunt the region for nearly 2 decades. The morning of March 15, 2000, began like any other for the two researchers, who had spent the previous 3 months documenting the movements of endangered rock wallabies and rare species of kangaroos. Victoria, a conservation biologist known for her meticulous field notes and passionate dedication to wildlife protection, had chosen this remote location specifically for its pristine ecosystem. Preston Edwards, whose wildlife photography had graced the pages of National Geographic, brought both technical expertise and artistic vision to their joint venture. Together, they represented the perfect combination of scientific rigor and visual documentation. Their last known communication came through at 7:15 that morning, a routine check-in with their base station. Victoria's voice was clear and enthusiastic as she reported spotting a group of yellow-footed rock wallabies, a significant finding for their research. "We're heading to the northern ridge to set up observation posts," she had said. "Should be back by sunset." When darkness fell and no further contact came, concern began to ripple through the research station. The following morning, a search party discovered their observation post abandoned. The scene was immediately troubling. Expensive camera equipment lay carefully arranged on a tarp. Their satellite phone rested on a rock, and 2 water bottles sat half-empty beside their field notebooks. Everything appeared positioned as if the researchers had simply stepped away momentarily, but they hadn't. Their vehicle remained parked exactly where they had left it, keys still in the ignition. Their sleeping bags lay neatly rolled in their tent, and their provisions remained untouched. Most puzzling of all, their emergency beacon, standard equipment for all field researchers, sat unused in its protective case. The discovery sparked an immediate response from local authorities. Search teams combed the rugged terrain, while helicopters swept across the vast landscape. The harsh environment of the Flinders Ranges, with its deep gorges and hidden valleys, complicated the search efforts. Days turned into weeks, and still, no trace of Victoria or Preston emerged. Their disappearance sent shockwaves through the scientific community. Victoria had been on the verge of publishing groundbreaking research about marsupial breeding patterns, while Preston's photographic documentation was set to expose unprecedented behaviors in nocturnal species. Their work represented years of careful study and observation, making their apparent abandonment of the site all the more mysterious. The research station itself offered few clues. Their laptops contained data entries from that morning, including detailed observations about kangaroo populations in the area. Victoria's last entry, timestamped at 6:45 a.m., noted unusual movement patterns among the local marsupials. Preston's camera, recovered from the scene, contained photographs taken just hours before their disappearance, crystal-clear images of the landscape and wildlife, abruptly ending at 7:05 a.m. As autumn turned to winter, the search scaled back. The families of Victoria and Preston maintained hope, but the harsh reality of the Australian outback left little room for optimism. The station manager, Dale Mitchell, had been the last person to see them alive, reporting that they seemed in good spirits during their morning departure. His statement would later take on a darker significance, but at the time, it simply added to the growing list of dead ends. The disappearance of Victoria Kelly and Preston Edwards became a cautionary tale among field researchers, a reminder of the unpredictable nature of wilderness work. Their abandoned equipment, valuable enough to fund months of research, stood as a silent testament to the likelihood that whatever had happened, it had happened suddenly and without warning. As the case grew cold, their research station was preserved exactly as they had left it, becoming an unintentional memorial to two passionate scientists whose quest for knowledge had led them into the heart of mystery. The initial investigation into Victoria and Preston's disappearance fell to Senior Constable Jennifer Wilson, a veteran of the South Australia Police with 15 years of experience in remote area cases. From the moment she arrived at the research station, something about the scene troubled her deeply. The meticulous organization of the abandoned equipment suggested no signs of panic or struggle, yet the complete absence of the researchers defied logical explanation. Wilson's first interview was with Dale Mitchell, the station manager who had worked the territory for over 2 decades. Mitchell appeared genuinely concerned, describing Victoria and Preston as dedicated professionals who never took unnecessary risks. He provided detailed maps of their usual research routes and mentioned their strict adherence to safety protocols. His knowledge of their movements proved invaluable in those early days, though his helpfulness would later be viewed in a far more sinister light. The search patterns were carefully plotted using the researchers' last known GPS coordinates. Helicopter surveys revealed the harsh reality of the terrain, a landscape of deep ravines, hidden caves, and dense scrubland that could easily conceal any trace of human presence. The search teams faced temperatures soaring above 40 degrees Celsius, while dust storms frequently grounded their aerial operations. Wilson's team discovered Victoria's notebook contained detailed observations about unusual kangaroo movement patterns in the weeks leading up to their disappearance. The entries described large groups of kangaroos suddenly changing their traditional grazing areas, behavior that Victoria had found particularly intriguing. Preston's photographic memory cards, recovered from the equipment at the site, showed hundreds of images documenting these same behavioral changes. The investigation took an unexpected turn when Wilson's team analyzed the satellite phone records. The device had made one final unauthorized attempt to connect at 8:45 p.m. on the night of their disappearance, nearly 14 hours after their last confirmed communication. The signal was too weak to establish a connection, but its mere existence suggested at least one of the researchers had been alive and attempting to reach help well into the evening. Dr. Michael Torres, a wildlife conservation specialist called in to consult, found the researchers' data particularly valuable. Their final recordings showed a significant decline in certain kangaroo populations that couldn't be explained by natural factors. However, without more evidence, these observations remain just another piece of the puzzling disappearance. The absence of activated emergency protocols particularly bothered Wilson. Both Victoria and Preston were experienced field researchers who carried personal locator beacons. These devices, designed to be activated in any emergency, remained untouched in their protective cases. This detail suggested either the situation had developed too quickly for them to react, or they hadn't initially perceived themselves to be in danger. As days stretched into weeks, the search area expanded to cover over 1,000 square kilometers. Indigenous trackers brought in to assist found scattered signs of human passage, but nothing conclusive. The harsh environment quickly erased most physical evidence, while the vast territory made comprehensive coverage impossible. Wilson's interviews with other station workers revealed nothing unusual about the day's lead. Ing up to the disappearance, the researchers had been in high spirits, excited about their recent findings. Their satellite phone calls to colleagues and family members showed no signs of concern or anxiety. They had been planning future research phases, even discussing an extension of their permit to continue their studies. The investigation's initial phase concluded without clear answers. The evidence pointed to neither accident nor foul play, leaving the case in a frustrating limbo. Wilson kept the file active, convinced that the careful nature of the researchers and the presence of their expensive equipment ruled out simple misadventure. Yet without bodies or clear evidence of crime, the case slowly drifted toward the cold case files, becoming one of those mysteries that would haunt the Flinders Ranges for years to come. As months turned into years, the disappearance of Victoria Kelly and Preston Edwards settled into the fabric of local legend. The once bustling investigation gradually quieted, leaving only Senior Constable Jennifer Wilson to periodically review the dusty case files, searching for anything they might have missed. The families never gave up hope. Every winter, Victoria's mother would travel to the Flinders Ranges, placing fresh flowers at the abandoned research station that had become an unofficial memorial. Preston's father, a retired park ranger himself, spent his savings hiring private investigators, each one ultimately defeated by the vast, unforgiving landscape that had swallowed his son. 5 years after the disappearance, Dr. Michael Torres published a comprehensive analysis of Victoria and Preston's final research data. His report highlighted disturbing anomalies in local kangaroo populations, showing dramatic declines that defied natural patterns. Yet without concrete evidence linking these findings to the disappearance, the observations remained academic curiosities, footnotes in scientific journals. The annual memorial services became a gathering point for the conservation community. Researchers who had worked with Victoria and Preston shared stories of their dedication, their passion for wildlife protection, and their meticulous approach to field research. These gatherings served another purpose, keeping the case alive in public memory, even as official resources dwindled. Theories multiplied in the absence of answers. Some suggested the pair had stumbled upon drug operations in the remote territory. Others proposed they had been victims of Australia's notorious wildlife, though experienced rangers dismissed this as unlikely given their expertise. The most persistent theory, endorsed by several colleagues, was that they had discovered something in their research that someone didn't want found. Dale Mitchell, the station manager, continued his work in the ranges, occasionally assisting with searches when new tips emerged. His knowledge of the territory made him an invaluable resource, though each search ended in disappointment. He maintained a careful log of possible sightings and regularly updated the authorities, displaying what appeared to be genuine concern for the missing researchers. By 2010, the case file had grown thick with false leads and dead ends. 3 separate reviews by cold case specialists yielded no new insights. The original evidence, the carefully arranged equipment, the unused emergency beacons, the final satellite phone attempt continued to puzzle investigators. The scene suggested neither panic nor struggle, yet 2 experienced researchers had vanished without trace. Local indigenous trackers, who had been instrumental in the initial search, passed down stories of the disappearance to younger generations. They spoke of unusual movements in the wildlife that season, of kangaroos abandoning traditional grounds, details that echoed Victoria's final notes but offered no resolution. Ranger Patricia Campbell, who took over wildlife monitoring in the area, kept detailed records comparing current animal populations with Victoria and Preston's baseline data. Year after year, her reports showed continuing irregularities in kangaroo numbers, though natural factors like drought and predation could explain some variations. The case remained active only in the technical sense, relegated to a filing cabinet in the South Australia Police headquarters. Jennifer Wilson, now promoted to inspector, kept a copy of the file on her desk, a reminder of the mystery that shaped her career. She had interviewed every possible witness, explored every theory, yet the fundamental questions remained unanswered. For 18 years, the disappearance of Victoria Kelly and Preston Edwards stood as a testament to the mysteries the Australian outback could hold. Their research station, preserved much as they had left it, became a silent monument to scientific dedication. Their detailed notes and careful observations, though incomplete, continued to influence conservation efforts in the region. No one could have predicted that the truth lay buried in the very earth they had studied, waiting for nature itself to reveal what human investigation could not. The flash floods of 2018 would finally begin to unravel a mystery that had haunted the Flinders Ranges for nearly 2 decades, bringing to light a truth more disturbing than anyone had imagined. The winter of 2018 brought unprecedented rains to the Flinders Ranges, transforming the usually arid landscape into a network of rushing waterways. On July 12, the deluge reached its peak, sending torrents of water through ancient creek beds and scouring deep into the red earth. Nature, in its raw power, was about to uncover what human efforts had failed to find for 18 years. The discovery came when Ranger Patricia Campbell was assessing flood damage along the eastern ridgeline. The rushing waters had carved away at an embankment, exposing what she initially thought was old mining debris. But as she approached, the unmistakable glint of human remains in the freshly exposed soil stopped her in her tracks. Partially uncovered by the flood waters lay 2 sets of skeletal remains, their positions suggesting they had been deliberately buried. The South Australia Police response was immediate. Within hours, forensic teams descended on the site, carefully documenting and excavating the area. The remains lay approximately 3 meters below the original ground level, wrapped in what appeared to be camping tarps. Alongside the bodies, investigators discovered fragments of a camera, its memory card miraculously intact within its protective casing. The location itself spoke volumes. The burial site was less than 4 kilometers from where Victoria and Preston had last been seen, but in terrain so rugged it had never been thoroughly searched. The flood waters had cut through layers of deliberately placed rocks and compacted soil, revealing what meticulous human effort had tried to hide. As forensic anthropologists worked to recover the remains, other evidence began to emerge from the exposed earth. Scattered among the bones were shell casings from high-powered rifles, far more than would be needed for personal protection or routine station management. More telling were the scattered remains of kangaroos, buried in deeper pits nearby, their bones showing clear signs of systematic culling. Dr. Michael Torres, called to the scene to examine the kangaroo remains, made a chilling connection. The burial site contained primarily yellow-footed rock wallabies and red kangaroos, both protected species. The volume of remains suggested an operation far beyond occasional hunting. This was industrial-scale poaching. The most crucial piece of evidence came from Preston's recovered camera. Though damaged by time and the elements, forensic technicians managed to extract images from its memory card. The final photographs showed more than just wildlife documentation. They captured systematic hunting activities, including night operations and industrial processing equipment hidden in remote valleys. Jennifer Wilson, now leading the reopened investigation, recognized the significance immediately. Victoria and Preston hadn't simply vanished. They had stumbled upon something that would have destroyed certain local operations. Their meticulous research habits, which had documented declining kangaroo populations, had inadvertently exposed an illegal hunting enterprise worth millions on the international black market. The forensic examination of the remains told its own story. Both victims showed signs of close-range gunshot wounds, suggesting they had been confronted directly rather than ambushed from a distance. The manner of burial, while hurried, showed knowledge of the terrain and deliberate attempts to conceal the bodies permanently. As investigators expanded their search of the area, they uncovered more evidence of the illegal operation. Hidden caches of hunting equipment, makeshift processing stations, and documents revealing connections to overseas buyers painted a picture of a sophisticated wildlife trafficking network that had operated undetected for years. The flood waters had exposed not just a murder scene, but a criminal enterprise that had claimed both human lives and thousands of protected animals. The mysterious disappearance of two dedicated researchers finally had an explanation, one that would shake the local community and expose a dark underbelly to the region's wildlife management. The discovery transformed the narrative of Victoria and Preston's disappearance from a baffling mystery to a targeted killing. Their final research notes, which had puzzled investigators for years with observations of unusual wildlife patterns, now read like crucial evidence of criminal activity. In death, as in life, their dedication to wildlife conservation would help protect the very animals they had died trying to save. As evidence mounted from the flood-exposed burial site, the South Australia Police assembled a dedicated task force under Jennifer Wilson's leadership. The scattered remains of illegally culled kangaroos told a story that stretched far beyond two murders, one of systematic wildlife exploitation on an industrial scale. Wilson's first priority was establishing a complete timeline of Dale Mitchell's activities at the station. Financial records revealed suspicious patterns of deposits into offshore accounts, always falling just below reporting thresholds. These transactions corresponded with shipping manifests from various meat processing facilities, though the declared contents rarely matched the volume of payments received. Dr. Michael Torres spent weeks analyzing Victoria and Preston's recovered research data against historical population records. The numbers painted a devastating picture. In areas where their notes had documented unusual kangaroo movements, population counts had dropped by more than 60%. These declines couldn't be explained by drought, predation, or natural migration patterns. The level of sophistication in this operation is staggering, Torres explained to Wilson during a late-night briefing. They weren't just taking any animals. They specifically targeted breeding populations of protected species, knowing their meat commanded premium prices in certain markets. The investigation team meticulously reconstructed Mitchell's movements during his years as station manager. His travel records showed regular trips to coastal cities, coinciding with departures of cargo ships bound for Southeast Asian ports. Each shipment was officially logged as processed game meat, but the volumes far exceeded legal hunting quotas for the region. Ranger Patricia Campbell's expertise proved invaluable as the investigation expanded. Her knowledge of kangaroo behavior helped identify likely hunting grounds based on seasonal patterns. At each location, investigators found evidence of systematic culling, shell casings, tire tracks, and makeshift processing sites carefully hidden from aerial observation. The financial investigation revealed a complex web of shell companies and false documentation. Mitchell had created an elaborate paper trail, suggesting legitimate hunting operations while concealing the true scale of his activities. Bank records showed payments from overseas buyers totaling millions of dollars over 15 years. Wilson's team discovered Mitchell had maintained detailed records of his illegal operation, hidden in encrypted files on his personal computer. The documents revealed not just shipping schedules and buyer contacts, but precise calculations of sustainable killing rates, designed not for conservation, but to ensure his operation could continue undetected for years. The recovered camera footage from Preston's equipment proved crucial in connecting all elements of the case. The images showed more than just wildlife photography. They had inadvertently captured Mitchell's nighttime hunting operations, including clear shots of vehicles, equipment, and faces. Most damning were time-stamped photos from the morning of the researcher's disappearance, showing Mitchell's vehicle in an area he had specifically denied visiting. As the evidence mounted, Wilson realized the full scope of what Victoria and Preston had stumbled upon. Their research hadn't just documented declining wildlife populations. It had created an irrefutable record of systematic poaching that would have exposed Mitchell's entire operation. Their detailed notes and photographs would have provided enough evidence for multiple federal investigations. Laboratory analysis of soil samples from the burial site yielded traces of blood from multiple kangaroo species, confirming the location had been used as a processing area. The soil composition matched samples found in shipping containers intercepted at various ports, providing a direct link between the killing grounds and international trafficking routes. The investigation expanded to include federal agencies as the international scope of Mitchell's operation became clear. Customs records revealed a pattern of shipments stretching from South Australia to markets across Asia, all carefully disguised as legitimate game meat exports. The true volume of illegal wildlife products suggested profits in the millions of dollars annually. Every new piece of evidence reinforced the same conclusion. Victoria and Preston had died because their dedication to wildlife conservation had threatened to expose an operation that had been destroying protected species for nearly 2 decades. Their meticulous research methods, which had made them excellent scientists, had also made them dangerous witnesses to systematic wildlife crime. As Wilson prepared to move against Mitchell, she couldn't help but reflect on the cruel irony. The two researchers who had devoted their lives to protecting Australia's unique wildlife had died trying to document its exploitation. Their work, even in death, would help bring down one of the largest wildlife trafficking operations ever uncovered in South Australia's history. The breakthrough in the case came not through traditional police work, but through the painstaking restoration of Preston Edwards' damaged camera. For 3 weeks, forensic technicians worked to extract data from the waterlogged memory card, using specialized equipment to recover what many believed would be lost forever. When the first images appeared on their screens, the magnitude of what Victoria and Preston had discovered became horrifyingly clear. The recovered footage showed systematic hunting operations conducted under cover of darkness. Night vision sequences captured teams of hunters using high-powered rifles equipped with suppressors, methodically targeting protected species. Preston's expert eye had documented everything: the specialized vehicles, the industrial processing equipment, and most crucially, Dale Mitchell directing operations with practiced efficiency. The final sequence of images, taken on the morning of March 15, 2000, told the story of Victoria and Preston's last hours. The photographs started as routine wildlife documentation, but quickly transformed into something more sinister. Frame by frame, they had unknowingly captured Mitchell's team processing dozens of illegally culled kangaroos in a hidden valley. The last images showed Mitchell's vehicle approaching their observation post. Jennifer Wilson studied these final photographs with growing horror. The timestamp showed 7:12 a.m., just 3 minutes before Victoria's last radio contact. The sequence ended abruptly at 7:13 a.m., with a blurred image of Mitchell himself, his expression clearly visible as he noticed the researchers photographing his operation. The recovered data revealed that Victoria and Preston had spent weeks documenting the declining kangaroo populations, unaware they were building a case against their killer. Their detailed notes, when combined with the photographic evidence, painted a picture of systematic wildlife exploitation on an industrial scale. Mitchell's operation had been killing thousands of protected animals annually, shipping the meat to black markets across Asia. Laboratory analysis of Preston's camera revealed trace evidence that would prove crucial. Soil samples trapped in the camera's casing matched those from the burial site, confirming the device had been there during the murders. More importantly, blood residue found on the camera's exterior matched the DNA profiles of both Victoria and Preston. When confronted with the evidence, Mitchell's carefully constructed facade began to crumble. His initial denials gave way to anger as Wilson presented photograph after photograph of his illegal operation. The man who had played the role of helpful station manager for 18 years finally revealed his true nature, raging against the interfee. Ring researchers who had threatened to destroy his lucrative enterprise. The scale of Mitchell's operation emerged through financial records and shipping manifests. Over 15 years, he had orchestrated the killing of more than 5,000 protected kangaroos, generating profits exceeding $12 million. The operation had employed a network of hunters and processors, all working under the cover of legitimate station activities. Victoria and Preston's final research notes, recovered from their laptops, provided the last pieces of the puzzle. Their observations of unusual kangaroo behavior had actually documented Mitchell's hunting patterns. The animals had been changing their movements to avoid the killing grounds, creating the very anomalies that had captured the researchers' attention. The evidence was damning. Preston's photographs showed Mitchell's direct involvement in both the illegal hunting operation and the confrontation that led to the researchers' deaths. Victoria's detailed notes provided a timeline of the operation's activities, unwittingly documenting their own killers' movements in the weeks leading to their murder. The breakthrough brought bitter vindication to those who had never stopped searching for answers. Victoria and Preston had died doing what they loved, protecting Australia's wildlife. Their meticulous research habits, which had made them excellent scientists, had also ensured their killer would eventually face justice. In death, they had accomplished what they had strived for in life, exposing and helping to end a massive wildlife exploitation operation that had threatened the very species they had worked to protect. The trial of Dale Mitchell began on a sweltering February morning in 2019, drawing international media attention to the Adelaide courthouse. For 3 weeks, prosecutors methodically presented evidence that transformed a mysterious disappearance into one of Australia's most significant wildlife crime cases. The recovered camera footage, displayed on large screens in the courtroom, forced Mitchell to face his victims one final time through Preston's expert lens. The prosecution's case proved overwhelming. Forensic evidence linked Mitchell directly to the burial site, while financial records revealed the staggering scope of his illegal operation. Expert testimony from Dr. Michael Torres demonstrated how Mitchell's systematic hunting had devastated local kangaroo populations, pushing some species to the brink of local extinction. Victoria's mother sat through every day of the trial, clutching her daughter's worn field notebook. Preston's father, his face weathered by years of searching, watched as his son's final photographs revealed the truth he had spent 18 years seeking. The images showed not just evidence of crimes, but a testament to his son's dedication to wildlife conservation. Jennifer Wilson's testimony proved particularly compelling. She detailed how Mitchell had actively participated in the original search efforts, offering assistance while knowing exactly where the bodies lay. His careful misdirection had helped ensure the initial investigation focused on areas far from the actual burial site. The financial evidence painted a picture of extraordinary greed. Mitchell had amassed over $12 million through his illegal wildlife trafficking operation. Prosecutors demonstrated how he had used his position as station manager to facilitate the systematic slaughter of protected species, shipping the meat to black markets across Asia, where it commanded premium prices. The defense attempted to portray Mitchell as a simple station manager caught up in larger criminal enterprises, but his own detailed records betrayed him. His encrypted files revealed meticulous planning, showing how he had calculated sustainable killing rates to ensure his operation could continue undetected for years. When the jury returned after just 6 hours of deliberation, their verdict was unanimous. Mitchell stood emotionless as the judge sentenced him to 30 years for the murders of Victoria Kelly and Preston Edwards, with additional terms for wildlife trafficking and environmental crimes. His empire of exploitation had finally crumbled, brought down by the very people he had killed to protect it. The case's resolution sparked significant changes in wildlife protection across Australia. New legislation, dubbed the Kelly-Edwards Wildlife Protection Act, strengthened penalties for wildlife trafficking and increased funding for conservation enforcement. Remote research stations implemented enhanced security protocols, ensuring future scientists would be better protected while conducting their vital work. The site where Victoria and Preston's remains were discovered was transformed into a memorial conservation area. Their research, incomplete but invaluable, helped establish baseline data for ongoing wildlife protection efforts. The regular population surveys they had begun continued under new teams of researchers, their methodology serving as a model for conservation projects across the continent. Senior Constable Jennifer Wilson, whose unwavering dedication had helped solve the case, established a specialized unit focused on wildlife crime investigation. The unit used Victoria and Preston's case as a training model, teaching new officers how to recognize signs of systematic wildlife exploitation. In the aftermath of the trial, Victoria and Preston's families found a measure of peace in knowing their loved ones had died working to protect the creatures they cherished. Their deaths had exposed a criminal enterprise that had threatened Australia's unique wildlife, and their legacy lived on in strengthened conservation efforts and enhanced protections for the species they had died trying to save. The Flinders Ranges slowly reclaimed its secrets, but the landscape remained forever changed by the events that had unfolded there. The story of Victoria Kelly and Preston Edwards became more than a tale of tragedy. It emerged as a powerful reminder of the courage required to stand against environmental exploitation and the ultimate price some pay in defense of the natural world.